They called it suicide, but it was a human rescue mission. The Galactic Tribunal Chamber of the Kryx'naari Hegemony was, like most things designed by the 9 tentacled bureaucrats of the Vexillian sector, unnecessarily vast and relentlessly symmetrical. 64 judges perched on perfectly aligned obsidian platforms, their translucent exoskeletons glimmering under the perpetual amber glow of the artificial suns that orbited the chamber's central column. Each judge's 4 eyes blinked in perfect unison, a synchronicity achieved through centuries of genetic modification and neural conditioning. Before them stood a single human. "State your designation for the records," intoned Chief Adjudicator Vex Morith, his voice a vibration that rippled through the chamber's specialized acoustic medium, a gel-like substance that carried sound, with such precision that even the quietest whisper could be heard from any position in the room. The human scratched his nose. Dave Lister." A collective gasp rippled through the observation balconies where 300 representatives from the Galactic Alliance sat or hovered or gelatinously pooled, depending on their physiological requirements. "Full designation," insisted Vex Morith, his head tentacles stiffening with irritation. "David Lister, human, Earth, Sol system." Dave yawned. "Sorry, but those chairs you had me in during processing were bloody uncomfortable. Any chance of getting a coffee in here?" Vex Morith's secondary tentacles twisted in what the more xenologically educated beings in the chamber recognized as profound disgust. "The accused will refrain from making requests until the formal charges have been presented," the chief adjudicator announced. "The tribunal calls forth evidence curator Talakith to present the preliminary findings." A slender, gelatinous being oozed forward. Her translucent body contained visible neural clusters that pulsed with different colors as she moved. The biological equivalent of a mood ring, currently displaying the burnt orange of professional concentration. "Honorable adjudicators," Talakith began, her voice a melodious burble. "The facts of this case are as unprecedented as they are disturbing. 3 standard cycles ago, the accused, David Lister of Earth, infiltrated the Praxis 9 research facility." Dave leaned against the defendant's podium. "Infiltrated is a bit dramatic. I walked in through the loading bay. Your security guard was watching something on his tablet. Looked like competitive tentacle wrestling. Seemed really into it." Talakith's neural clusters flashed an annoyed purple. The human then proceeded to the quantum resonance chamber, where our most classified weapon development takes place. "Weapon?" Dave's eyebrows shot up. "That's what you lot think it is?" "Silence," thundered Vex Morith. "You will speak only when addressed directly by this tribunal." Dave shrugged and mimed zipping his lips. Talakith continued, her form rippling, with the effort to maintain composure. "The accused breached 7 security protocols, disabled the containment field around experimental device KX-7, and then..." She paused, her neural clusters pulsing an incredulous yellow, then deliberately exposed himself to the quantum resonance field. The chamber erupted in murmurs and clicking sounds, and from one corner, the high-pitched singing that the methane-breathing Hilarians use to express shock. "The accused absorbed a lethal dose of quantum particles," Talakith concluded. "By all established science across 17 galactic species, he should have been instantly vaporized. Instead, he appeared to experience what our monitoring systems can only describe as pleasure." Dave grinned. "It was like a really good back massage, actually. Bit tingly in the extremities." "The human not only survived, but showed no physical damage whatsoever," Talakith continued, ignoring Dave's comment. "When security forces arrived, he was found attempting to modify the device's emission pattern using primitive tools from his personal kit. Just a standard wrench and some duct tape," Dave offered helpfully. "Basics, really." Vex Morith's tentacles waved in a gesture that silenced the chamber. "The charges against you, David Lister, are severe. Unauthorized access to a military facility, tampering with classified technology, attempted sabotage of a weapon of galactic significance, and," added Talakith, her form now glowing a solemn blue, "based on your actions and the impossibility of surviving such exposure, We must also add the charge of attempted suicide by means of a restricted quantum device. Dave blinked. Suicide? That's rich. You deny this charge? Asked Vex Morith. I deny all of them, technically, Dave said, straightening up. But especially that one. I wasn't trying to off myself, I was trying to fix your bloody machine. Fix? The word seemed to vibrate through all 64 judges simultaneously. What defect did you perceive in our most advanced quantum technology? Dave looked around the chamber, suddenly aware that every eye, photoreceptor, sensing tentacle, and vibrational membrane was focused on him. Well, he said, scratching his stubbled chin, you lot have been using it wrong. The chamber erupted again, this time with the sound of hundreds of translators trying to process a concept that many species found linguistically impossible. The idea that the Kryx'naari Hegemony, masters of quantum manipulation for 12 millennia, could use their own technology wrong. Vex Morith raised all 9 tentacles, commanding silence. Explain yourself, human, but be warned that false testimony before this tribunal carries a penalty of neural reconfiguration. Right, Dave said, rolling up the sleeves of his worn jacket. Let me lay it out for you. That device you call KX-7 isn't a weapon. It's a medical device. Specifically, it's for fixing spinal injuries and muscle damage. Talakith's form rippled with disbelief, her neural clusters cycling through colors so rapidly she resembled a malfunctioning holiday decoration. Impossible. The quantum resonance field disrupts molecular cohesion in all tested species. Yeah, in all of your species, Dave countered. But humans? We soak it up like a nice hot bath. Been using similar tech back on Earth for decades, though yours is admittedly much more powerful. It's like comparing a tricycle to a motorcycle. The judges conferred among themselves, their tentacles waving in complex patterns that constituted their private language. If what you claim is true, Vex Morith finally said, then why did you illegally enter our facility? Dave's expression softened. Because of Diana. Identify this Diana, demanded Talakith. Diana Chen, human xenobiologist. She was part of the diplomatic team sent to establish relations with your, what do you call it, hegemony. Dave's casual demeanor faltered for the first time. There was an accident during the tour of your manufacturing center. A load lifter malfunction. Crushed her lower spine. Vex Morith's tentacles curled thoughtfully. We recall this incident. The human female was deemed unsalvageable by our medical team and placed in stasis pending return to your species. Unsalvageable by your methods, Dave corrected. But I knew, everyone on the human diplomatic team knew, that the quantum resonance technology you were developing could save her. We requested access. We filed petitions. We went through all your bureaucratic nonsense for months, while Diana lay frozen, barely alive. The technology was classified, Talakith stated flatly. It was classified because you thought it was a weapon, Dave shot back. But it's not. It never was. It's just particularly good at rearranging cellular structures, which, yes, can disintegrate most species, but for humans it can heal catastrophic damage. A long silence fell over the chamber. Even the perpetually moving spectators in the observation balconies grew still. You claim, Vex Morith said slowly, that you infiltrated our most secure facility, not to steal our technology or to end your own life, but to rescue this Diana Chen? That's exactly what I'm saying, Dave replied. And I would have succeeded if your security hadn't interrupted me before I could finish recalibrating the resonance field. Talakith floated closer to the podium. The punishment for your actions, regardless of intent, remains severe under our laws. Yeah, well, Dave shrugged. Sometimes you have to break the rules to do what's right. Diana's been my friend since university. She's brilliant, probably the smartest human who's ever studied your species. And she's been frozen in a tank for 6 months because of your bureaucracy and misunderstanding. The chief adjudicator's tentacles waved in a pattern that the human couldn't interpret. We will confer, Vex Morith announced. The accused will be returned to holding. Wait, Dave protested as two security drones moved toward him. What about Diana? She can't stay in stasis forever. The longer she's under, the less chance we have of a full recovery. But the tribunal had already retreated to their deliberation chamber, a perfectly spherical room hidden behind the main hall. Dave was escorted away, his protests echoing through the acoustically perfect chamber. Hours later, Dave found himself back before the tribunal. The amber light seemed dimmer, creating long shadows across the chamber floor. David Lister of Earth, Vexmorth began. The tribunal has reviewed your testimony and conducted its own investigation. We have examined the quantum resonance patterns of the KX-7 device and compared them to the medical records available for human physiology. Dave leaned forward expectantly. Our findings are unexpected, the chief adjudicator continued. It appears that the quantum signatures generated by the device do indeed align with cellular regeneration patterns in human tissue. What we, designed as a method of molecular disruption, functions in your species alone as a sophisticated healing mechanism. That's what I've been saying, Dave sighed. However, Vexmorth's tentacles stiffened. This does not excuse your actions. You violated our most sacred security protocols. You tampered with technology you could not possibly fully understand. I understand it well enough to know you were using it wrong, Dave muttered. Talakith floated forward. The standard punishment for these offenses is neural reconfiguration followed by permanent exile. However, given the unique circumstances, the tribunal is prepared to offer an alternative. Dave crossed his arms. I'm listening. You will assist our scientists in recalibrating the KX-7 device to function as a medical apparatus for your Diana Chen, Vexmorth stated. If successful, you will then submit to a full memory extraction of all technical knowledge related to quantum resonance technology. Memory extraction? Dave's eyes widened. You want to wipe my mind? Only the specific memories related to the technology, Talakith explained, her form glowing a calm green. You will retain all personal memories, including those of Diana, Chen, and your friendship. Dave considered this for a long moment. And Diana, she gets treated and released? If the procedure is successful, yes, Vexmorth confirmed. Both of you will be returned to Earth with a formal diplomatic reprimand, but no further consequences. And if it's not successful? Dave asked quietly. The chamber fell silent. Then standard penalties apply, Talakith finally answered, her form darkening to a deep blue. For both of you. Dave nodded slowly. I don't have much choice, do I? Let's do it. The Praxis 9 research facility looked different under official escort. The sterile corridors that Dave had sneaked through days earlier were now brightly lit, with various Kryx'naari scientists skittering or floating alongside him. Their curiosity was palpable. Many had never seen a human up close before. Your species is remarkably resilient, commented Chief Researcher Zetavik, a spindly being, whose exoskeleton clicked with every movement. Our preliminary scans show that your cellular structure actively absorbs and redistributes quantum particles, rather than being disrupted by them. Lucky us, Dave replied, eyeing the massive doors that led to the quantum resonance chamber. How's Diana? The human female remains in stasis, Zetavik answered. Her vital functions are stable but minimal. The damage to her spinal column and surrounding tissue is extensive. The doors hissed open, revealing the chamber that Dave had broken into days before. The KX-7 device dominated the center, a gleaming array of interlocking rings surrounding a platform designed for Kryx'naari physiology. We'll need to modify the support structure, Dave said immediately. Human anatomy is different. She needs to lie flat, not in that curled position people use. Zetavik's head tilted at an angle that suggested surprise. You understand the operational parameters of the device? Enough to know it needs adjusting, Dave replied, already moving toward the control panel. The resonance field needs to be concentrated on her lower spine, not dispersed throughout the body. And the quantum frequency needs to be shifted to match human cellular vibration. For the next several hours, Dave worked alongside the Kryx'naari scientists, explaining human physiology and helping them recalibrate the device. Despite his lack of formal scientific training, his practical knowledge of similar Earth technologies proved invaluable. "How did you acquire this expertise?" Zitavik asked as they made final adjustments. "Our records indicate you are not a scientist or medical professional." Dave smiled slightly. "I used to work maintenance at a rehabilitation center in London. Spent 3 years fixing and calibrating the quantum therapy machines. They're smaller than this monster, but the principles are the same." "Maintenance?" Zitavik's exoskeleton clicked rapidly, the Kryx'naari equivalent of astonishment. "You were a repair technician?" "Still am, technically," Dave shrugged. "Just on sabbatical to help with the diplomatic mission. Diana pulled some strings to get me included, said they might need someone who understands the practical side of technology, not just the theory." Zitavik fell silent, processing this information in a way that seemed almost embarrassed. Finally, the moment arrived. Diana's stasis pod was brought into the chamber, the transparent casing revealing her pale, motionless form. Dave stood by tensely as the Kryx'naari medical team carefully transferred her to the modified platform within the KX-7 device. "Her vital signs are weakening," announced one of the medical technicians, their voice translating through Dave's earpiece. "The stasis field has preserved her, but her body is beginning to reject the suspension medium." "Then we need to move fast," Dave said, stepping up to the control panel. "I'm initiating the resonance field now." The rings of the KX-7 began to rotate, slowly at first, then with increasing speed until they became a blur of light and motion. A soft hum filled the chamber, gradually rising in pitch until it was just at the edge of human hearing. "Quantum. Particles are generating at expected levels," reported Zitavik, monitoring a display that showed swirling patterns of energy, focusing on the damaged spinal region as specified. Dave watched anxiously as the field enveloped Diana, her body now glowing with a soft blue light. "Increase the intensity by 15%, he instructed, "and narrow the focus field." The Kryx'naari technicians complied, their movements precise and efficient. The blue glow intensified, concentrating around Diana's lower back. "Cellular regeneration has begun," Zitavik announced, a note of surprise in their clicking voice. "The quantum particles are being absorbed and redistributed exactly as you predicted." For nearly an hour they maintained the field, making minute adjustments as Diana's body responded to the treatment. Dave never left the control panel, his eyes constantly moving between the readouts and his friend's glowing form. Finally, Zitavik approached him. "The damaged tissue has been fully reconstructed. Neural pathways are reestablishing. We should discontinue the treatment before cellular overstimulation occurs." Dave nodded and began the shutdown sequence. The rings slowed, the humming faded, and the blue glow gradually dissipated, leaving Diana lying motionless on the platform. "Did it work?" Dave asked, moving quickly to her side. For a moment, nothing happened. Then Diana's eyelids fluttered. "Dave?" Her voice was barely a whisper, raspy from months of disuse. "What? Where am I?" "Hey there." Dave smiled, relief washing over his features. "You're at that fancy research facility, the one with all the tentacled scientists." Diana's eyes widened as memory returned. "The accident? I couldn't feel my legs." "Try them now," Dave suggested gently. Hesitantly, Diana moved her foot, then her knee. A look of wonder spread across her face. "How?" "Long story," Dave replied. "Involving breaking and entering, a tribunal, and some rather miffed aliens who thought they'd invented a superweapon instead of a super-medical device." Zitavik stepped forward. "The human David Lister has enlightened us about the true nature of our technology. It appears that what destroys other species heals yours. A most unexpected outcome." Diana struggled to sit up, Dave supporting her back. "You used the KX-7 on me, but that was classified as a military project." "Classifications change," Zitavik replied, their exoskeleton clicking in what might have been embarrassment. "As do understandings." As Diana regained her strength over the next few days, the full story emerged. The Kryx'naari, impressed by both the successful treatment and the revelation about their technology, had decided to reclassify the KX-7 as a medical device, at least when applied to humans. A new treaty was drafted, establishing a medical exchange program that would allow human patients with severe spinal and neurological damage to be treated with the Kryx'naari technology, while the Kryx'naari would receive access to human medical databases to better understand the unique properties of human physiology. The day before their scheduled return to Earth, Dave and Diana were summoned once more to the Galactic Tribunal Chamber. This time, however, they entered not as prisoners but as honored guests. David Lister and Diana Chen of Earth, Vex Morith announced, his tentacles arranged in what cultural attachés later explained was a formal pattern of respect. The Kryx'naari Hegemony acknowledges that a significant misunderstanding has occurred regarding our technology and your intentions. That's putting it mildly, Dave muttered, earning an elbow from Diana. In light of these revelations and the successful medical application of the KX-7 device, all charges against you have been dismissed, Vex Morith continued. Furthermore, the memory extraction requirement has been waived. Diana stepped forward. On behalf of humanity, we thank you for this reconsideration and for the medical treaty. This partnership will save countless lives. Indeed, agreed Vex Morith. However, there remains one matter to address. The chief adjudicator's gaze fixed on Dave. The method of your entry into our facility remains a security concern. Our system should not have been so easily bypassed. Dave shuffled uncomfortably. About that, I may have had some help. Explain, demanded Talakith, floating forward. Your security officer, the one watching tentacle wrestling, Dave began. He wasn't just distracted. He let me in deliberately after I explained about Diana. Said he had a clutchmate who suffered a similar injury in your military. Said sometimes the rules needed bending. The chamber filled with a sound that the humans' translators couldn't quite interpret, somewhere between gasps and laughter. Identify this officer, Vex Morith demanded. Can't, Dave shrugged. Never got his name. 4 tentacles, greenish exoskeleton, had a scar across his left eye cluster. Talakith's form rippled with recognition. That describes security officer. Keteth. He is the spawn sibling of adjudicator Zelteth. All eyes turned to the 15th judge, whose tentacles suddenly writhed in what was clearly discomfort. Is this true, adjudicator? Vex Morith asked. Zelteth's voice was subdued. My clutchmate Keteth did indeed lose a sibling to spinal severance during the Proxima conflict. Our medical technology could not save them. If he assisted this human, it was not with my knowledge or approval. But perhaps with your understanding? Diana suggested gently. The chamber fell silent as Zelteth's tentacles slowly formed a pattern that even the humans recognized as affirmation. It seems, Vex Morith finally said, that compassion transcends species more readily than we anticipated. Security Officer Keteth will be reprimanded but not severely punished. His actions, while against protocol, have led to an unexpected diplomatic breakthrough. As they left the chamber, Dave turned to Diana. So, not suicide after all. More like a rescue mission that nobody wanted to officially approve. Diana smiled, still marveling at her ability to walk without pain. Next time you plan a rescue, maybe consider a method that doesn't involve potential neural reconfiguration. Where's the fun in that? Dave grinned. Besides, I've always wanted to see if those maintenance skills would transfer to alien tech. Turns out a quantum resonance generator isn't that different from the machines back home, just with more tentacle-friendly interfaces. Diana laughed, then grew serious. You risked everything for me, Dave. They could have executed you. Nah, Dave waved dismissively. These bureaucratic types never execute anyone. Too much paperwork. At worst, they'd have scrambled my brains a bit. Probably an improvement, according to my ex. As they boarded the shuttle that would take them back to the human diplomatic vessel, a small Kryx'naari approached, holding what appeared to be a data crystal. The tribunal requested I provide this to you, the aide explained, offering the crystal to Diana. It contains the modified specifications for the KX-7 device, adapted for human medical use. Your scientists will need this to construct compatible units on Earth. Diana accepted the crystal with surprise. This is extremely generous. This technology must be worth— The value is irrelevant, the aide interrupted. The adjudicators have classified this as reparation for the misclassification that delayed your treatment. As the aide skittered away, Dave examined the crystal. Looks like your accident might end up saving thousands of lives back home. Our accident, Diana corrected him, and your completely unauthorized, highly illegal, absolutely insane rescue mission. Dave leaned back in his seat as the shuttle prepared for departure. They called it suicide, but it was a human rescue mission all along. Wonder what other weapons out there are just misunderstood medical devices. Diana rolled her eyes. Please, don't make it your life's mission to find out. No promises, Dave replied with a grin. No promises at all. As the shuttle lifted off from the Kryx'naari diplomatic platform, Dave gazed out at the swirling nebula that surrounded the Hegemony's capital world. Somewhere in that vast expanse of stars and gas and quantum possibilities, there were other misunderstandings waiting to be corrected, other technologies being used wrong, other opportunities for a maintenance technician with a knack for improvisation to make a difference. But for now, he was content to have saved one friend and potentially millions of future patients. Not bad for a guy who spent most of his career fixing jammed therapy machines and unclogging medical waste disposal units. In the official record of the Kryx'naari Hegemony, the incident was classified under diplomatic adjustments rather than security breaches. The KX-7 device was formally reclassified as multi-species interaction technology, with specific warnings about its effects on different physiologies. And in a small note, visible only to the highest levels of Kryx'naari administration, Chief Adjudicator Vex Morith added, "Perhaps we should consider hiring maintenance personnel with practical experience, rather than only theoretical training." The human David Lister's approach, while unorthodox, demonstrated an intuitive understanding that our specialists lacked. 6 months later, the first human Kryx'naari Medical Center opened on Earth's lunar colony. Diana Chen served as the chief liaison, her fully recovered body a testament to the technology's effectiveness. Patients with previously untreatable spinal and neurological conditions began to arrive from all corners of Earth and its colonies. And Dave? He declined the prestigious position offered to him, opting instead to serve as the center's head of maintenance. The machines still need someone who speaks their language, he explained when questioned about his choice. Besides, someone needs to keep an eye on these tentacled doctors to make sure they're using everything properly. On quiet nights when the center's corridors were empty save for the occasional medical drone, Dave would sometimes sneak into the main treatment room and run his hand along the human-adapted version of the KX-7, the machine that was designed to tear molecules apart but instead put them back together, the weapon that healed instead of harmed. Funny old universe, he would murmur to himself. Sometimes the worst misunderstandings lead to the best breakthroughs. And sometimes what looks like suicide from one perspective is actually the most human act of all, a rescue mission against impossible odds, bureaucratic obstinance, and the rigid certainty of those who believe they already understand everything there is to know. On the 1-year anniversary of the quantum incident, as it had come to be known in diplomatic circles, a small package arrived for Dave. Inside was a maintenance tool of clearly alien design, its handle adapted for human hands, but its functions unmistakably Kryx'naari. With it was a simple note written in the precise angular script of a species that valued efficiency above all, for the human who taught us that sometimes, to fix something properly, you must first break the rules that keep it broken. Security, Officer Kateth, newly appointed Director of Cross-Species Medical Implementation. Dave smiled as he pocketed the tool. Rules, like technologies, were sometimes used wrong, and sometimes it took a maintenance man to figure out how to make them work right. They had called it suicide, but it was always a human rescue mission. And in the end, perhaps it had rescued more than just Diana. Perhaps it had rescued something essential about interspecies understanding itself. Not bad for a day's work.